Hi, welcome back to my channel. I have another book review for you, and this is a book that I have in 3 formats. I have the trade paperback. It's The Getaway by Emily March. I also have the ebook and I have the audiobook. So quite naturally, I listen to this as an audiobook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up the book cover so I don't have to hold this book for 5 or 6 minutes, okay? So, what is The Getaway about? Well, the first thing I'll tell you, it is book number 1 in A Lake in the Clouds novel. And it is pretty much mostly a women's fiction with some romance in it, but definitely women's fiction. Now, Emily March is a New York Times bestselling author. I have others of her book in the other room. But here's the thrust of the book. After years of putting her family first, Genevieve Prentice is making a fresh start, but it's never easy to leave the past behind. Genevieve Prentice lost her father, her husband, about 20 years ago, but she did also lose her father maybe 5 years ago. When she lost her husband, she raised 4 children alone, 2 boys and 2 girls. In this book, our featured characters are Genevieve, Tess, and Jake. Jake is one of her sons. Now, my imagination is in future books of the series, I can imagine that other of her children will be featured. But we do meet all 4 of Genevieve's children. Now, the book starts off where it's about to be the Thanksgiving holiday, and Genevieve is big on holidays. I think I even read in the book somewhere that they celebrate President's Day. They don't miss a single holiday. Well, this particular Thanksgiving, the younger son says that he can't attend. The older son, his boss, is about to send him overseas on a business trip. That just leaves the 2 girls. Genevieve says, forget it. Her sister comes, her and her sister are very close, and I think they end up having pizza, and the holiday is off. Then she has an epiphany. The epiphany is, I have put you guys, my family, first, your whole entire lives, but now it's time for me to make a fresh start. So that's Genevieve's point of view. Meanwhile, as mentioned, the book also goes into Jake and Tess's point of view. Jake is the oldest of Genevieve's children, and he's a businessman, and he's in a position where he has to lay off 28 employees. One of those employees, her name is Tess Crenshaw. And Jake has 2 problems when it comes to having to fire Tess or to lay Tess off. The first thing is, ethically, he doesn't want to do it. Another reason is he's always liked Tess, but because he's her boss's boss, he never crossed that line. Human resources would not tolerate that type of relationship within the office environment. And then there is another part of the story is her talent and her skill in business and in the accounts that the company is bringing in. So with all of that, Jake really doesn't want to get rid of Tess. So something interesting happens. Remember, Genevieve is tired of being, the be-all and end-all for her 4 adult children. So she takes her life in her own hands. She sells the family home and she buys a property in what's called Lake in the Clouds, Colorado. Well, guess what? Jake kind of follows suit. He quits his job. And he's ready to find out what truly makes him happy. Meanwhile, something in particular brings Tess back into Jake's life. Remember, he had fired her, or almost fired her. So now she's back and in his life, and now she's at the lake. And now Jake gets to address what he might be able to address, what he really wants. And what does he really want? He wants to act on that attraction to Jess. There's no employee-employer boundary between them. So that's what he's going to see. Now, that gives you an idea of those three principal characters. Of course, we have Genevieve's sister and the other adult children, but those are our three principal characters in this book. Now I want to show you that at the end of the book, there's two things. There's a recipe for ginger cookies, but more importantly, there are questions for discussion. The question is, as a reader, who are we more drawn to in this story? Whose story really pulls us in the most? Does Genevieve's story, does Jake's story, does Tess's story? Because Tess has a history. She's got a good story. So, who do you relate to the most? Tess? Genevieve? Jake? And why did Jake even quit his job? He was successful. You know, he was a big, strong businessman, perfectly formed as far as his career. So, Emily March has written a very, very, very good story. Very relatable characters, very well developed, making the book very easy to read. Now, as mentioned, I got this as an audiobook arc, and I love the fact that I got this as an audiobook arc because I was able to listen to this story being developed and being able to draw myself into the story itself. So I had this as an audiobook, and our narrator was Tracy Odom. The audiobook itself was 10 hours and 28 minutes, and Tracy Odom did a fabulous job. I think this was a very, very warm story, a story where family is one that you can relate to. And the reason that I personally can relate to this story is I have 6 adult children, and they've all gone in their separate directions. And what is my role as a mother, and how much responsibility do I feel towards them as adults, and what do I have as far as expectations of them? Well, in this book, we see Genevieve and the expectations she had of her children, but also the roles that her children are playing now as adults. It all came full circle. I think it was very, very sweet, very, very apropos, kind of like a late coming of age story for Genevieve, you know, because she had to be in her 60s. I love her and her sister, and I can definitely relate to all of them. So that is the Getaway by Emily March. It's available today. It was actually available yesterday, and I'm going to go ahead and edit this video and get it up for your perusal. So hopefully you'll be able to grab this book for review. Thanks for watching.